Hello, it is I, the flyest French fry, your boy Soy Chai Latte, and I have a lot to say today. Welcome to the newest episode and installment, and probably the only one, unless for some fucking reason this hits, um, of an interview with a person that I personally wait. Hold on, I gotta clap at him. I'm sorry. There you go. An interview with a person who I like a lot. Really cool dude. Glad to have him here, with me. Been quarantining for like the past 4 days, and I'm slowly losing my mind. And this is kind of the emphasis of that. So, ladies and gentlemen, and gentle germs, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to my guest today. It's me. It's your boy. What's up? How you doing, man? I'm pretty good. I feel like I'm gonna be double fisting mics at some point in time in this entire interview, but we're gonna roll with it. Anyway, I'm doing pretty well. Been quarantining for the past few days, just kind of vibing, chilling, grooving. Trying not to lose my head, and this is kind of like an amalgamation because I never want to limit myself as an artist. As you really shouldn't, and I really think that you're becoming more and more and more and more and more surreal with your work, and I think that this is like a really, if you don't mind me looking at camera, a really good way to kind of emphasize that. Where like I look at the art in your room, man, and I see like curse marks and blessings and the Grim Reaper and all that shit, and I'm like, well, this just kind of floats. This just kind of makes sense. Yeah, I kind of appreciate that, dude. It is me in a lot of ways, but you know what the craziest thing that I wanna talk about today, or at least a little tangent. How the fuck did we get here? Yeah, dude, that's literally what like. How the fuck did we get here? Like to this point. You ever think like one day you were just a fucking nut in your dad's sack, and even before that he was a nut in his dad's sack, and then even before that, and then you could continue that line all the way to the birth of the universe, and somehow we're floating here worried about taxes, and I'm worried about getting paid and all this kind of shit. And help me out here. What's your 2 cents on this, man? Doctor, my 2 cents on that is like it's really difficult nowadays to kind of make a living, but it's also difficult because of like the existential distress that we're always facing at all points in time. Like literally, man, you look up for like 2 seconds, you're like, oh shit, I'm like this, but not even like that. I'm like the hair of that, a fraction of that compared to all of this Jupiter jazz. And it's really shitty because I just want to like spend time painting and vibing and making like surreal content, but who the fuck knows? Maybe this never really does kind of pan out. Maybe it does. Maybe we all explode in like 2 months. Maybe we all explode in like 2 seconds. Who knows? Copernicus, I'm gonna need you to slow down a little bit there. But yeah, no, it's kind of crazy. I'm trying to reel you back a little bit. We're supposed to be having a conversation here, and that's kind of crazy part about this entire experience, isn't it? You're really just talking with yourself. Now, I think it's more just like seeing exactly where my mind could go if posed with the Toy Story end credits scene of the man. That's literally what this is, actually. The Toy Story end credit scene of the man playing chess by himself, faking a heart attack, and then doing the thing. Like that's essentially what this has become. And I'm really trying to figure out like a method or like a rhythm or maybe a topic. And we as I pan over or look over to the skull, death. Let's talk about that. One of us has to be like the more saner party, but honestly, man, I'm a vibe with your rhythm. I'm gonna keep it going. I'm gonna keep it pushing. So yeah, talk about death for a little bit. What do you want to talk about when it comes to death? How one of the biggest realizations that I have had in the past few years is that, and it's hard to say because my artist name and tag name and all that kind of stuff is death, but the idea that let me back up a little bit. The idea that like we are all the most unique thing in the universe equally, like, and we all have our own universe within ourselves, and it's just kind of like a microscope and a telescope, or like a microscope and a macroscope of like, I don't know, like reality and life itself. Yeah, pretty much that. Where I'm like, so think about it like this: when I die, Jordan, hello, hi, not you, Jordan. You're gonna chill for a little bit, but me, when I die, I'm going to take the entirety of the universe with me. And this has been something that's been on my chest for a while. And, as the perceiver of this reality that Jordan inhabits, at least I can say, it's really fucking strange to be like, dang, so what happens? It's like, well, you get like one life. Really? Oh, dude, that'd be really cool. Hold on. Wait 2 seconds. What do you need me to wait 2 seconds for? Where are we going from here, sir? Am I still in frame? Yeah. I don't know, doctor. That's the crazy thing, because like a few days ago, you were talking to me, and you were like, hey, sometimes I wish I could have a force or something like that that could kind of jump out and help out for a hot second. You know, kind of like in Avatar: The Last Airbender, how Aang could just like meditate for like 2 seconds, and then like all of a sudden 1,000,002 teachers would come. Like, you kind of are looking for something a little bit like that, I think. And this is maybe a manifestation of that entire, you know, not even wet dream, but more of like a more need that you have for yourself potentially, Captain. You know, that's a very good point that you bring up, man. I really do see that I do need a need for like a teacher or a master or something like that, but not in that way. But like some sort of force to help guide that knows my life better than I do, almost like a higher force in some way, shape, or form. So how do you go about finding that? And I think that the best way to find that is just to find the inner teacher within. Read books. You know, I have one right there that's been cooking for a little bit. Fucking talk to people and just kind of express your life journey any way that you kind of want to. Home Square, I think you're actually pretty correct on that one. I don't think that the source that you need to kind of help yourself is outside of yourself, which is kind of hard, that you have to physically project someone out there. But you know, I think that everything that you need, as you say in your journal entries, has been within. So take a sip of gin and realize that it's always been within. And that's kind of like the mantra that you have to kind of roll with at this point in time, homie, because like as much as you want to fulfill certain things and you want to, you know, fill the void to some extent and not go crazy, even though, I mean, look what the fuck we're doing. But like I think that what you really need is like, and it's funny because you know what, it's not even like a vacation helped, which is the crazy part, because you drove your ass all the way down to North Carolina to go get some solace for your ex, and that didn't help. Wasted a lot of money, but it was a good time. You got some cool gear, but you know, blah blah blah. You spent the past week in effectively quarantine. Not really the past week, more like the past like 4 days, and like effectively quarantine, and you still haven't like found the fucking drive. So I think the purpose of this is to try to figure out exactly where do you kind of see fit. Where do you Jordan see yourself in, not necessarily 5 to 10 years, not even years in general, but where do you find your happy place is the biggest thing. Where do you find your joy, your dopamine, your own personal stash, not anything that anybody can give from you. You know, I really do think that that's a really good point, and I had an idea when you were saying that. I really do think that the place I find my most joy and dopamine is, and it's hard, because to some it may be considered a distraction, but to others it may be considered salvation, which is the interesting thing. Creating, working, building, exploring, kinda, but like doing kinda stuff like that, I think is the biggest thing for me. I think, because like when I'm at Makerspace, or when I'm at this and that, or when I'm painting and I don't feel like I need to paint, or when I'm playing guitar to some extent and I don't feel like I need to play guitar, I'm just practicing, is when I feel the most happy. But a question I'll pose to you, sir, is, do you think that that's just distracting me from the inner torment? And I wouldn't really say torment, because it's not too bad. It was a whole lot worse a few years back. But like, do you think it's distracting me from the inner torment that I find within myself? Or do you think it actually is indeed the salvation that I am so seeking? Well, my dearest Dr. D, technically that's me right now. I guess we're doing like a weird therapy session. This is some meta shit. Anyway, hold on. Back to this. Good question. Good question. Do you, not I, because you know we're separate entities in this figment of reality that you are now enticing me with. Do I feel that it is distraction or salvation? Interesting. And I feel like it's a cop out to say it's both, because you know everybody can say "por qué no los dos," and it's cool. You know, they're just like, yeah, no, that makes sense. But I really do think that it could be both potentially. And I really want to give you a rock solid answer, but this world is full of gray, man, and I wish that statement hit a little bit heavier. This world is full of gray as much as we would like it to be black and white. And there's a quote somewhere that just popped in my head that said something like, as long as there are rules to be followed, or more of guidelines that we can adhere ourselves to, the more that, let's see, that's the best way to put this, the less people will freak out. You know, COVID was a big hit, but we're not going to talk about that. But I think when it pertains to you is, does it fucking matter? Dude, does it fucking matter? Does it bring you any sort of joy regardless of how it feels? And I think that you, a long time ago, had this realization, but you stored it potentially for this moment and many moments in the future. And I'm going to tell you what it is. As long as you're not actively trying to hurt anybody, as long as you're not actively trying to inflict pain or torment or torture to anyone, and yourself included, but at least to anyone outside of yourself, do whatever the fuck you want. Really? Yes, please, for the love of God, do whatever the fuck you want. Jordan, you have to realize that, like, life is, like, incredibly short in the span. Like, we have a good 100 years. Our kids most likely will have, like, maybe 125. Kind of floating around there. It's gonna be ridiculous, man. And you're already 25. I'm about like 28 at this point in time, trying to be your oldest self that's talking to you for a hot second. You have so much goddamn time on this earth, providing DG or C, that stands for death, God, or cigarettes, does not kill you like beforehand, and you already took care of 2 of them. So I think the best thing is spend time doing things that you actually enjoy doing, such as this. You know, you're literally talking to the figment of your imagination, which is the kind of funny part. And I somehow became the therapist in this situation, and you somehow became the patient. I like how you're on the couch and I'm in the chair. But I really do think that at the end of the day, man, if you figure out exactly what you like doing and just hone it, then you'll be fucking set. Because I think there's a quote where, no, there's not a quote, but there is a point that I made as I've observed your life from the outside looking in. I think that the biggest thing that, and I'm trying to round my point before I lose it, but I think the biggest thing is that you're doing your things for the affections, the affection of others. You're doing what you think you should be doing. You literally watched an anime on it, like last night. You watched like the first 3 episodes. It was about an artist. Really good one. Blue Period. Really, really good anime, by the way. At least for the first 3 episodes. Especially if you like art. You're doing things for the affections of others, not just for the affection of yourself. And you've been doing things for the affection of others for so goddamn long that it somehow is hardwired into your brain that you need to do it for them or for other people or for the money or for this or for that, for all outside forces compared to literally something that just brings you joy. And I'll give you a really good example. DJing, you're nowhere near professional. At least professional. You can fucking spin and you can whip it, but you know, I think that something that you kind of need to think and meditate on is what got you started on that. And it wasn't a manic episode, sir. Yeah, well, technically, I went to Guitar Center down the road and to talk about DJing. I went to Guitar Center down the road, and it seemed as though I was just drawn to the machine a little bit. I was high on mania, which is fucking ridiculous, but yeah, I was drawn to the machine. I just started pushing buttons, and eventually my skills grew from there. And now I can actually, I know how to use a DDJ SRT 1000 and at least most of it, and spin and do all that kind of shit. And I'm experimenting with it, and it's getting to the point where I'm actually falling in love with it over again. But it's hard because, you know, as much as it's not going to bring me money, that shouldn't be the focus. Money will come. You know, I have a job. And this, technically, I'm supposed to be therapist, but you're supposed to be therapist in this one. I have a job that can pay for things, and I'm hopefully going to get a better job that can at least pay for me to move out and rent and a few nice vacations here and there. So it's not even like outside of art or outside of anything like that. Oh, I have no idea. Sorry, I heard buzzing. It's not even outside of art or outside of anything like that. Life just doesn't matter, because art is a very big thing to me, and if I can make it in the art world, I'd be a very, very, very happy character within whatever aspect, whether it be painting or music or this or that or the other thing. I feel like I have a very good vision for what I would like to do. But the really hard thing is, like, how do I make paper off of it without going through all of my paper in both ways? You know, how do I make money without burning through all of my bread? You know, be the baker, but not eat all of it before the customers come in. And at certain points in time, as I look into the sky and looking at you, I just have to, like, Realize that it's a sad thing, but you gotta let go and let God sometimes, man. And homeskill it. That's kind of the conclusion I'm trying to bring you to at the end of the day. You believe in a very planned out universe. You believe that everything that happens has to happen for a reason, or else why would it happen? You believe that we are all cogs in a great machine, and regardless of how big or small or clustered or far apart the cog is, it still makes the machine turn. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what the fuck you do. You still make the machine turn. You still make life to some extent, or less of an extent, but mostly to some extent, worth living. So, with all of that information, Jordan, this has been a fantastic fucking experiment. You've gotten deeper into yourself. You're setting up I want to call them modems, but more like checkpoints for new brain paths and new brain energies and better ways to talk to yourself, to kind of get at what makes you and what makes you tick. And that's the most important thing that I want you on the couch to take home is sometimes the stupid ideas may be actually the best ones for you. And sometimes you don't need to do things for others. You just need to honestly do things for yourself. I don't know why I like holding the wires, but I do. Maybe because it makes you feel like a stand-up comedian or something like that. You always see them doing it, and maybe you have idealizations. You idealize being a comedian one day, or at least someone who people would want to look up to talk to. I remember I did weed one time, and it was as if, okay, the world ain't ready for that story yet. All right, we don't have to tell that story yet. What do you want to talk about, boss? So you idolize being heard. You idolize being heard, welcomed and warmed, because inside you do not believe that you deserve it. Damn, I really am the therapist in this one. That's cool. Yeah. And to some extent, don't we all? Don't we really all want to be loved and warmed and feel like we deserve it? A lot of this stuff kind of stems from my relationship with my dad, which is a lot better than it was, but it is a lot better than it was. And how I never felt like I deserved anything good. And I'm not necessarily saying that, but like, I think the biggest thing is I felt like I didn't deserve love or affection. I think I needed to find it through other means. And not necessarily by being a yes man or any of that kind of shit, but I am slowly and still and hoping to not have to take pills, because I wanted to rhyme, to try to find the affection in others, but oh my God, so much in myself. So much in myself. I totally feel you, man. To try to find the affection in yourself is a very hard thing. It's infecting sometimes. Because it can be a good thing, but you can go overboard with it. You can have too much pride, or any of the 7 deadly sins for that matter. But like, I think it's a noble journey, Jordan, to try to find love within yourself before you seek it out in others. I think it's a very noble journey to try to, as much as you don't like it, or as much as you think you don't like the phrase, to become the full pot. Now, for those of you who don't know, the full pot is something. I really wish that lighting was a little bit better, but it's all right. Fix it next time. Boom! Look at that. Bing bong. The full pot. Realizing that you can't feed anyone if your pot isn't full. If you have a pot full of rice, and each day you put a grain of rice in, or you put 2 grains of rice in, or some people put 10 or 12 or whatever. They're better at taking care of themselves and knowing when to say no and all that kind of stuff. And each day, a good person, or a person will say, tries to feed the hungry, feed the people who have less in their pot. You are the type of person that will have nothing in your pot and still try to scrounge up a piece of rice, which may seem to be a good thing, yes, but it can be so detrimental to your mental and physical health and emotional health. Senor, Capitan, Chief, my dude. I really do feel that, and it really is. Sometimes I just want to be alone, but then I want to be with people, but then I don't. It kind of feels like, not to skirt away, to Tokyo drift away from that, but sometimes it feels like, I'm always trying to figure out, and I'll try to circle back to it. I'm always trying to figure out what's going on within, is the biggest thing. I'm always trying to figure out what's going on within. I'm always trying to suss out my feelings, and it's hilarious, but I also find it very fitting that I'm a Libra, and the only thing I know about them is scales, and scales means balance. And I think instead of balance, it is I have a lack of balance. And I'm slowly working towards trying to make my life more balanced, especially in the emotional scale, especially in the physical scale I can work on here and there, but being sound emotionally is the biggest thing for me at this point in time, I would say. Homie and Hohenheim, that's a deep thing, I think. And you don't have to circle back to it. I just wanted to make it a point, but these are some of the biggest things that you're going to deal with in your early 20s and up until like 30s ish. 40s, you just either care or you don't really figure it out, but not saying that you don't figure it out, but you care or you don't at that point in time. But I really do think that you're making some deep discoveries here, sir. And I think that this idea that was spawned over the course of 15 minutes and, edited over the course of maybe an hour or two was a really good idea. And I don't exactly know where you would like to end this session with a friend, but I would definitely, maybe potentially like to do it again if you come up with any more topics. Well, sir, the only topic that I really see it being about is me. I'm literally interviewing myself. Like, so shouldn't it just be like a deeper dive into me, getting to know myself a little bit more as I look out the window or look at you or whatever, Because life is crazy. Life is fucking ridiculous sometimes, and I really hope to find my light at the end of the tunnel. I really hope it's not just more digging. I have a belief that at the end of the day, we all meet up in a grand garden of sorts. I call it Death's Garden. Where he kind of shows us how to tend the fields, water, dirt, and all the shit that gardeners do. Real wholesome work. And through that, we in fact burn out the rest of our karma in this life. Kind of like an easy fix workout, a P90X for all your karma. So we can all kind of not necessarily be together, but go back to source or go back to whatever. Go back to wherever this crazy simulation that we are kind of in is from, Because I do believe to some extent, sir, that the butterfly, the caterpillar to cocoon to butterfly, is in fact the quintessential human experience. And that's why typically I always draw death with butterflies. Usually. Sometimes. Sometimes they're around, sometimes they're not. But death always is surrounded by butterflies. And I'll try to explain. So, human existence, right, is the caterpillar stage, which is essentially trying not to get eaten and eating. That is it. That is the entire thing. That is it. Trying not to get eaten, being born, trying not to get eaten, and eating. So you can then prepare for the next. Now, eating can be a million and two things. Use your own brain to decipher what that means, but it can be a million and two things. Then we die. Metaphorically and more spiritually, we die. We enter the cocoon phase. Now, through that, the body, the mind, the spirit, everything is in the ground to some extent, but is also in the ether, gathering information, molding and changing and forming and doing all that kind of Jupiter jazz to be able to be the butterfly. And butterfly is the hereafter. Butterfly is wherever the fuck you want to go. Butterfly is creating your own reality. Butterfly is literally the entire purpose is to repopulate and soar up to places where caterpillars never could. That is where I would like to end this podcast with a friend. So it kind of makes me think that life isn't just a big grind. Life really isn't just a big grind. It's about spending time with the people that you care for, the people that love you, and the people who will honor you when you do die. But the people who will not forget you at the end of the day. To some extent, I will say. I also think it's about mastering yourself. Trying to be the best caterpillar that you ever could be at the end of the day. So when you do decide to pass, whenever that is, and it could be at any point in time, Caterpillars, I don't think necessarily decide when they want to turn to cocoons. I think they just kind of be like, yeah, temperature's about right. I can do it right now. And then pop, and do it. I don't know. Not a scientist, not a biologist or whatever, but, you know, that's my 2 cents. So then you could eventually just be the butterfly, man. And I remember one thing, and if you remember it, Jordan, I would like you to say it. The monk and the butterfly. The monk had a dream that he was a butterfly, and it seemed so real that he believed it all. Woke up and realized it wasn't a dream at all. That's it. Thank you for watching, if you did. Thank you, and take care. Oh, no, wait, what is it? I always sign my poems with these. Hold on, I got it. Much love and take care. Don't forget to wash your hair. From one space cowboy soul to another. Your homie, hermano, and brother. J. D. Alexander. I'll catch you out there.